So, I've been meaning to make this video for a while now. So, it's kind of fresh on my mind. So, I have a buddy who really likes Batman. So, sorry, Trent. But, we gotta do a takedown of Batman and talk about why he is not a hero and why he is actually technically a supervillain, despite whatever intentions he may actually have. So you might already see where I'm going with this, but let's set up a little bit about Batman and his background. Okay, there's a lot of different Batmans as far as the canon is considered. We're not talking about any specific Batman here. Okay, we're just talking about general Batman as a brand, the character, Bruce Wayne. He's written a lot of different ways. Writers take a lot of different liberties with how he is, or what lengths he's willing to go, or just how mentally unstable he is in his day-to-day dealings. But it doesn't matter which writer it is, or which Batman it is, or which Gotham it is, for that matter. There's some consistent points that always stay the same. So let's talk about Batman as he begins. Pretty much every Universal Batman, there's some differences here and there for the background, but Batman, Bruce Wayne, son of whatever the fuck his parents' name are, doesn't matter, not relevant. Very rich, very wealthy white family living in Gotham. So leaving a movie or a theater or something one night, walk out the back alley, mugger, robber, whatever the fuck you want to call it, fucking shoots his parents dead, right? Kills his parents. Doesn't kill him. He is then taken care of by his butler, Alfred, right? And then goes on to inherit the Wayne fortune and become Batman. How he gets there is different most of the time. Sometimes it's the same, but again, it doesn't matter. The details aren't important. As Batman, he prides himself and concerns himself with protecting Gotham, alright? The city that he lives in. That's as Batman. As Bruce Wayne, he is just a regular old CEO who owns and presumably runs a company. I think it's like a chemical company, or no, that's Acme or whatever. Not important. Again, we're just covering the basis details here. So we have a CEO, very wealthy, very powerful man, masquerading as a vigilante, going around beating up bad guys, and making the police look dumb and making the criminals extremely angry as he consistently interrupts their pipelines, their trades, their criminal dealings, and agitates them to the point where they have to step up security, they have to step up their numbers, they have to step up their arsenals, they have to accommodate for Batman. As a result, for the criminal enterprises having to accommodate for Batman and his superior tech and superior wealth, the police then have to step up their tech and step up their arsenal and step up their manpower to accommodate for the criminals. And that might not be a problem if Batman were willing to kill the criminals. He's not. In almost every rendition of Batman, he is not willing to kill the criminals. He'll come close. He'll maim them. He'll break them. He will handicap them for life. They may never walk again. They may never speak again. They may actually die later that night. as a result of their injuries. But Batman doesn't kill them. So he costs hospital staff tons and tons of labor, having to heal criminals and police alike in all of the warrings that are going on in Gotham, as well as the day-to-day citizens that are harmed in the crossfire between the two. So hospitals have to step up their staffing, have to step up their technology, have to step up pretty much everything they do. Okay? So you can see how this is kind of having a shockwave butterfly effect kind of thing going on as it just snowballs more and more. Bruce Wayne, masquerading as Batman, is costing Gotham money. It's costing them lives. It's costing them labor. He is single-handedly racking up and exponentially increasing the costs of everything. And that's not just currency, like the people are paying with their blood, their lives, their sweat, their tears. Everyone has to accommodate the gross amount of wealth and selfishness and ego that Batman puts into that city. So, what's he doing about it? You know, like, what isn't he eventually going to win? Isn't he eventually going to stop it? No, he's not. Because in the DC universe, there are tons and tons of powerful villains who just get bigger and bigger and badder, and there's so many more always replacing. And that's kind of more of like a, comic book thing. It's not necessarily relevant because like it's a narrative device to make readers more interested in the conflict and whatnot. So we can give that a little bit of a pass. But the fact of the matter is, the more Batman does what he does, the more these criminal organizations are going to reach out for stronger and stronger support, stronger and stronger allies. And that's where they're going to find these supervillains, many of which already live in Gotham and already agitate Batman, or vice versa. Some of which have already been affected by him and are becoming supervillains as a result, which is a nice parallel to the constant warring of U.S. meddling in other countries' affairs and by proxy creating terrorist organizations that then war with the U.S. You see what's going on there? You create your own monsters. That's kind of what's going on here too. So the other thing you gotta look at is, since he's not willing to kill these criminals, they have to be held somewhere when he arrests them or leaves the police to arrest them, those poor souls. This is the only time you're ever going to hear me pitying the police, is when I'm talking about the police that have to deal with fucking Batman. Because these guys, honestly, their jobs must be so fucking hard. And why would you want to be a police officer in Gotham, too? Their attrition rate must be fucking crazy, their turnover rates and whatnot. Like, why would you want to sign up for that job? Why would you go through all the trouble of being a cop just to end up in Gotham, of all places? You're probably going to get killed or murdered or maimed or fucking, have a permanent smile put on your face for some... there's so many crazy things that could happen to you, and you're just a fucking cop. You're just a regular-ass fucking beat cop. And, you're presumably not being paid any better, maybe Batman does, some charitable donations to the police department or something like that. I don't read enough of Batman to know if that's a common thing, won't get into that too much, but I should also preface, I probably should have prefaced this video by saying I'm not super into Batman. I don't, read a bunch of it or whatever. I just know enough passing knowledge to have this conversation confidently. So, anywho, and, it could be argued, and it has been argued to me, that, the Justice League helps pick up the slack where Batman, doesn't have the manpower. Because that's the other thing, is that once Batman has reached this upper echelon of chaos that he's creating, where he's trying to force his rule and force his law, uh, it gets out of his hands. Eventually his wealth just isn't enough. He just needs more manpower, which is where he starts bringing in these children to fucking work for him and ruining their lives and bringing them into it and teaching them all this crazy nonsense about trying to serve for justice and protect people and do what's right, brainwashing them, essentially. And while all this is happening, it's just out of control. And these kids are constantly getting beat up and broken and kidnapped and shit like that. And, like, one of them was, like, supposedly killed. And, the other one was, like, raped and shit like that. Like, if you work for Batman, if you have ties to Batman, to Bruce Wayne, if you know him personally, you're fucked. Your life is going to be miserable. So, anywho, getting back to some of the earlier topics, the Justice League, they don't care enough about Gotham to fucking clean up Batman's messes. But we're not really trying to talk about expanded universe kind of stuff. We're just focusing on Batman here. But I'm kind of just, like, addressing the, like, what if, like, but kind of shit. So, yeah. In the end, we realize, like, what is the source of all of this chaos? Why does everything keep going wrong in Gotham? How does it keep getting worse? How do these supervillains keep coming back? How do these messes keep getting started? Like, where does it end? Does it ever get better? The root of all of those problems is Batman himself. If Batman was to be removed, things would at least plateau. They wouldn't get any worse than they are at that moment. They would stay the same. Assuming that one of his little bat children doesn't, try and take up his mantle, which they usually do. But let's just say no more superheroes. We use the term lightly because literally their superpower is just being rich and wealthy. Let's just say that they don't, try anything else. They just leave everything as it is. The only thing that happens at that point is there's a power vacuum, and then all of the warring criminals start fighting amongst themselves. That's actually where you start getting some real results. Because as the criminals start warring with themselves and taking themselves out, they are willing to kill each other. They are willing to fucking do what Batman is not. So in reality, no matter how you look at it, unless you're just a huge Batman fanboy who likes Batman being Batman, the best thing for Gotham City, the best thing for that universe, that canon, is for Batman and all of his little buddies to stop, to just die off and let things run their course. Obviously, you're probably still going to have criminal organizations and everything like that that will continue to exist the way they do. And there's a very high possibility that the police end up getting taken out in all of that as well. But the people who live in Gotham will eventually either move away or just become part of it. It sucks, but I mean, like, they're not any better off right now. I actually would make the case to argue that a lot of the reason that Bruce Wayne is actually fighting the fight that he is simply because he's protecting his wealth. He needs Gotham to be just safe enough that people can go to work for Wayne Enterprises and make him his money so that he can keep his little game going. He can keep masquerading. He can keep his charade up. Because realistically, if Wayne Enterprises was to go under and he was to lose all of his source of income, Batman couldn't be Batman for very much longer. His equipment would wear down, his munitions would run out, he would run out of chemicals, he would run out of everything, really. Unless he's rich enough, he can just play the stock market and like work as a day trader or something like that, which is entirely possible with his wealth. I believe he's actually considered like the wealthiest person in the DC universe. Which is why it's kind of funny that like him and Lex Luthor don't like get into more scraps, because like really wealth versus wealth is the most common type of conflict you would see in that scenario, but we won't get into that. That's expanded universe again. But yeah, so at the end of the day, Batman is a terrible fucking person who doesn't realize the damage he's causing despite being a fucking genius. So I question his genius unless he literally just doesn't care, in which case he's not a superhero. It's kind of like the Epicurus paradox. You know, if he is powerful enough to stop evil, then why is there still evil? And if he doesn't want to stop evil, then why does he exist? And so on and so forth. You know how it goes. But anywho, yeah, so maybe I have a few little holes you could be poked in my whole premise here, but I think when you walk away from this, you really start to get some critical thinking going and realize Batman is a supervillain. Batman is the one that causes the problems in Gotham, and Gotham would be safer without Batman. That's it.